Hello, good afternoon. Today, the ticket to the big concert or event. What's your experience of that ticket's availability, its cost, and the way it can be sold on via various websites with the price going up each time? Is the system we currently have in place, to coin a phrase, fit for purpose? This programme has for some years now been investigating the way tickets for concerts and events have become commodities, with the internet providing the perfect marketplace. We've talked about the criminal activity whereby people set up websites promising tickets to an event when in reality they've no intention of supplying them. But today we want to examine the bona fide system which currently operates. Is it right, for example, that the moment a concert date is announced, tickets are bought in large numbers, not by people interested in going to the event, but by those looking to make a profit by reselling them? If there needs to be a facility whereby people can buy and sell tickets to each other, how should that work? And should there be a limit on the amount of profit that can be made by the people providing that facility? In France, Belgium and Spain, for example, there are limits imposed on the prices chargeable above face value for tickets. Could that, should that, operate here? Get in touch if you're an artist, an entertainer, a consumer, or a tout, with your views and experiences of the way this market works at the moment. 03700 100 444 is the phone number. A call will cost you the same as dialling an 01 or an 02 number, or you can email via bbc.co.uk/radio4 you and yours. Lots of varied points of view coming in via the telephones and via email already. Let's explore a few of them. Pete Grist is in Acton in West London. Pete, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
What's your point here, your experience here?
Well, my main experience has been when I'm buying tickets for my sons, and being asked to get online sort of 9 o'clock when they go on sale, and trying to grab some tickets before they get sold. And it's fairly clear that if you look on Seatwave for tickets, that really it's the sort of it's people who are basically doing it to make a profit, not the the person who suddenly can't go and wants to get rid of their ticket. So I think really they should have you should only be able to resell to cover your the face value plus your sort of cost of transaction.
You mentioned Seatwave, which of course is one of the secondary ticket websites, a perfectly legitimate business. Why shouldn't a business like that, which is providing a service, be entitled to make a profit?
Well, it's a question of how much profit it's reasonable to make. I mean, it's the sellers on Seatwave who are making the profit, and they get, I suppose, a small commission. I mean, I think the prices charged by Ticketmaster is pretty outrageous in the first place, buying the tickets. But the resale, with the resale, you shouldn't really be able to sell for much more than the cost plus to recover your costs.
Which sounds as if, to me, you're thinking along the lines that I mentioned in France, Belgium, Spain, where there's some sort of cap in place.
I think that it needs legislation, because otherwise you can't really force it. But I think really all Seatwave is sort of is ticket touting, posing as a fan-to-fan thing. I mean, if it was fan-to-fan, you'd sell it at cost price. If you sell a ticket to a friend, you don't charge them a huge markup, do you? You just sell them, they just pay you what you cost.
OK, Pete, thanks for the call. Brendan Garvin, your thoughts, you're on the mobile. What do you say here?
Hello, Julian. Yes, basically, I don't see the need for the government to get involved with making up laws to regulate the sale of tickets to different events. If someone wants to sell something for more than they paid for it, then that's their choice, and if someone wants to buy that, that's theirs. If I can't get a ticket to somewhere, like a gig or a concert, for face value or a little bit more from someone wanting to get rid of a spare ticket, then I just don't go.
So you say let the market decide?
Let the market decide. I mean, there are lots of other markets which are a lot more socially damaging, such as the housing market, where people selling, for example, council houses that they got for a pittance, for vast profits, and the government doesn't seem to get in mind about that, and people don't seem to get upset about that as much.
And you would argue clearly that has a far bigger impact on the state of the economy than ticket selling does.
Yes.
OK, Brendan, thank you. Liz Egger in Dundee. Liz, good afternoon.
Hello.
A point you wanted to make here, I think.
Well, I couldn't get tickets. It took me ages to get tickets for my son for Tea in the Park.
Yeah.
I managed to get my two, but I couldn't get them from my other friend because his other friends because they'd sold out by the time I went back to buy the other tickets. So I was forced to go online and get two more tickets for his friends at a vastly inflated price, just minutes after I'd bought the two normal price ones.
Tell me about vastly inflated. What do you mean in figures terms?
My tickets that I bought were about 178.70. Within a few minutes, the other two I bought were 274.87.
And that was after you'd done, what, a fairly extensive search online?
Well, obviously I'm not going to get myself ripped off, so I knew that I could trust Get Me In and Viagogo.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just swithering quickly, which is the best one to get. I don't want them to be sold out. But of course, they have different charges that they put on the different sites, so you've got to try and factor that in as well.
But when you use the term vastly inflated, can you see a better way in which this system could operate, one which was perhaps fairer to a consumer like yourself?
Well, I don't know if it would cost so much more, but if you think of the Wimbledon system for the tennis championships, you enter a ballot and you're only allocated so many. Whether something like that would work, that's the same system for the Olympics. Certainly if there was a limit put on the amount that a person could order from their household, that might help, but...
Well, we will explore some of the options over the next three-quarters of an hour, so thanks for airing one of them. Liz, I'm going to go to a gentleman on the line now from Greater London, who is described just as a ticket trader, who I know doesn't want to give his name. Welcome to the programme.
Oh, hello.
Tell us how you operate.
Well, we run as a ticket business, where we buy tickets and resell them, and it's run as a business where we pay tax, VAT, everything's above board.
And where do you resell them?
Well, we sell them on numerous sites like Seatwave, Viagogo, Get Me In, eBay. We're the largest ticket seller on eBay presently. Been trading there for 10 years.
And when you buy them, in what sort of quantities are you buying them?
Well, it really depends. It really depends on the event. It could be anything from 6 tickets up to a few hundred tickets.
And how do you get hold of particularly a few hundred?
Through friends, contacts.
So within how long after, say for example, a concert date is announced?
Yeah.
How soon after that have you suddenly got several hundred tickets in your hand?
Well, it really depends how large, how big the concert is. That really depends on a number of factors.
Okay, so
it also depends on the risk that we're prepared to make. I mean, for example, we do have, say, a lot of tickets for Michael McIntyre, which is on in 18 months' time, and we are taking quite a big gamble with the amount of tickets that we have for that particular event. I personally think that concert promoters putting tickets on sale a year and a half in advance know that the general public won't be buying tickets for that year and a half, and they rely on ticket brokers buying up a lot of tickets to fund the actual tour.
Tell me how much you're going to make on that batch of 100 tickets you talked about.
On something like Michael McIntyre, we're really not too sure. At the moment, we think we will probably make about 10%.
But that's not a typical percentage, is it? You'll make a lot more than that on others.
It really depends. For Reading and Leeds Festival at the moment, we're selling tickets for £160. We're making a loss. We're losing about £50 to £60 on every ticket. And that's a gamble that we're prepared to make. You
heard the previous caller talk about an example of where she considered vastly inflated markups. Yeah. How can they ever be justified?
A ticket is worth what somebody is prepared to pay for it, not what is printed on the ticket.
So that face value figure in your mind is completely meaningless. This has just become a commodity in your mind.
It is completely meaningless. A ticket is worth what somebody is prepared to pay for it. as an example, there was Reading and Leeds Festival, which has not sold out this year. We are selling tickets now for £160. If you go onto Ticketmaster, you can still buy them, and you'll pay about £205, £210.
Where does that leave the consumer? I mentioned the examples of France and Belgium and Spain, and you'll probably be aware that there's a private members bill being discussed at the moment where a maximum 10% markup is being put forward as a possible legal avenue to go down.
If that goes ahead, all that will happen is that ticketing will go underground, just like it is with football tickets.
Won't it protect the consumer?
Yeah, the consumer. No, it will not protect the consumer.
Not at all.
No. It will go completely underground. It is not. The industry is not going to stop. People will just start selling for UK events from places like the States. There will be more websites will appear. People won't get protection from and that they do at the moment. And when they buy off companies like eBay or Get Me In or Seatwave or Viagogo, when they buy from there, they're getting full protection. If they don't get their tickets, they get their money back.
We're going to explore this with some guests. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much. 03700 100 444. Reg Walker is director of Iridium Consultancy, which works on behalf of the primary seller, promoters and event organisers. Edward Parkinson is the director of Viagogo UK. You just heard reference to it. It's a secondary ticket website. In other words, it acts as a facilitator for the buying and selling of tickets that have already been bought directly from a primary seller or a concert venue. Gentlemen, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Reg Walker, what do you think of what you've just heard?
There's some quite interesting arguments there. The frustration of fans unable to buy directly from the primary ticket agents on release is a major concern. And the reason is touts are using quite sophisticated computer programs to bombard the primary agents using proxy identities to buy up huge swathes of tickets. And that stops genuine fans being able to buy at face value. So what you have is touts in the secondary market interposing itself between the fan and the event and artificially scooping up large volumes of tickets to inflate the price. It's worrying. It needs something doing about it.
A comment we just heard from our last caller: the face value of the ticket is meaningless.
Well, in fact, it's not. There's a requirement in law to state the face value of tickets on secondary sites. So it's certainly not. There are also terms and conditions on the reverse of the ticket, and that constitutes a contract. Again, that's in law. That will be legally binding. There is a danger with the volume of tickets going on to the secondary market, and that face value being forced up, that you're making events and music elitist. It's based on your ability to pay, and the genuine fan on low to middle income can simply no longer afford to go and see the favourite artist.
But aren't the promoters, the artists, already doing that by the initial sum that they're demanding for these tickets, even before some of the secondaries and some of the touts have got involved?
I think it depends on the event, the production, the costs and the overheads and what they're paying the artist. I think there's a multitude of factors there. And increasingly, because of the decline of CD sales, touring and live events are constantly being used to prop up the lack of finance from that particular sector. So I think there's a variety of factors as to why ticket prices are relatively high compared to a few years ago.
Edward Parkinson, how does your company operate? Talk me through a typical working day at Viagogo.
So Viagogo is a marketplace. We allow people who have tickets that they no longer want to use to sell those tickets on. We also allow people looking for tickets for certain events to buy them on our marketplace. So it's a marketplace with buyers and sellers. The amount of tickets, the variety of tickets is constantly changing. We let the person selling the ticket to set the price. They can choose to sell the ticket at the face value, above the face value, or below the face value. And what we do is we make a guarantee that if you buy a ticket on our website, we guarantee that you get that ticket in time for the event. And we do that by monitoring all transactions. We make sure that that seller sends the ticket to the buyer. If there's an issue, we then step in and provide replacement tickets. And in the absolute worst case, we will provide a 100% refund. So what we're really doing is we're providing a secure platform for the buying and selling of tickets. I appreciate the frustration of looking for tickets and not being able to find them. But before Viagogo, people looking for tickets who for sold-out shows in particular had no choice. They had to either take their chances with somebody on eBay, and our research tells us that Up to 1 in 6 ticket transactions on someone like eBay can be a scam. People would send you a fake ticket or an empty envelope, or they had to take their chances on the street with a tout, which is really a bad experience if anyone's ever bought from a ticket tout outside a venue. So we're providing this secure platform. I'd make a comment on pricing. It's very easy to select the examples where a ticket's being listed for sale above face value. Around 50% of tickets on Viagogo sell around or below face value. There are many examples of current tours which are, for example, let's take a couple of big tours, the Roger Waters tour at the O2 Arena, the Take That National Stadium tour. For many of the dates of those tours, there are tickets available at face value, and for some recently, Kylie Minogue's just finished a big tour, there were tickets trading below face value, so it's not all about people selling at a markup.
Indeed not, but you are making a significant profit out of every transaction, are you not?
We do charge fees. We charge 10% to the seller, so somebody puts a ticket up at £50, we give them for 45, so we take a 10%, and we charge 15% to the buyer, so it's 25% across the board. That might seem like a lot.
So you're making 25% out of every transaction?
We are, but you have to remember that we are both managing the process of the seller getting the ticket to the buyer, we're guaranteeing that we'll step in if there's a problem, and we're providing customer service to both sides. So we're running a more complicated, operationally, business than simply printing tickets and posting them out.
But once you've dealt with the costs that you naturally incur as a result of the guarantee process you've just outlined, you're still making a decent profit out of each transaction, aren't you?
We're not making, you wouldn't be shocked at our profit margins relative to other businesses. We have a significant amount of operational overhead to manage this service and to provide that guarantee. So we think the price that we charge is actually quite reasonable, given that the alternative is to potentially pay money to put your credit card details into one of these scam sites and never receive any tickets, or take your chances on eBay or with someone outside a venue where you've got none of this protection that we offer.
I want to come back to you on where those replacement tickets you referred to come from, because I think that's quite important in this debate. But before I do that, let's go back to the phone. Sheila Mellor's in Coggeshall, near Colchester. Sheila, good afternoon.
Hello.
Your experience here?
My experience was that I ordered some tickets from Viagogo in January for a March 20th concert. They didn't turn up. So I emailed and still didn't receive them. No, nothing, just, let us know again. On the Monday after the concert, I emailed. I got given a contact telephone number. Well, there's only so much time you can spend on the phone listening to music, and no one was ever available. So I then sent a recorded delivery letter to their business address putting forward my complaint. That my tickets hadn't arrived, and I've just heard nothing since.
Edward Parkinson, I'm not going to pin you down on individual cases, clearly, but if somebody has had a bad experience, what should normally happen in the circumstances that we've just heard about?
Well, if someone's had a bad experience, they should absolutely contact us through our customer service contact form. We also provide customer service phone numbers to people who purchase tickets. I'm very disappointed to hear about this individual case, and certainly we will make sure that it gets rectified. It's a very small number of incidents where we have a problem, but as I've said, there is a guarantee of 100% refund in case of an issue, and indeed in many circumstances we will go above and beyond that if someone's had a particularly bad experience.
You will get your money back, Sheila.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's resolved it to a point, I guess. These replacement tickets, Edward Parkinson, where do you get those from?
We have a very liquid marketplace, to use a technical term, which means we have lots of people selling tickets on our marketplace, and we have lots of buyers looking for tickets. So if we suspect that a seller who's listed tickets for sale is unable to deliver those tickets, we will go to another individual selling tickets on our marketplace and substitute in those tickets to the original buyer. So we really find the tickets from sellers who are already listing tickets on our platform.
But when you offer that guarantee, do you know at that point that you could provide that ticket at that moment if you were required to do so?
We are the biggest ticket marketplace in the UK and the market leader, so we're now confident that we have enough buyers and sellers on the marketplace to make that guarantee in every case.
But do you know you've got that ticket at that moment? Because that's quite important, isn't it?
We know that we either have that ticket or we can get hold of that ticket.
Right.
So that's really how we're able to make that guarantee.
Which, Reg Walker, is a point that I think you want to make about how you would like to see changes in the system.
Certainly, I think the primaries could certainly tighten up on the flow of tickets into the secondary market. What I would draw issue with is there is a bit of a false premise with the big three as well, Seatwave, Viagogo and Get Me In in as much as they'll guarantee you a ticket or your money back. Wherever you buy from, if you buy with a credit card and the transaction's over £100, you'll get your money back anyway from the credit card. So you're no better off with the big three than you are with any of the other sites. On debit cards, you can get your money back under the chargeback system. So there's no advantage there. The flow. What I would also draw issue with is the volume of tickets that go through the big three that are from touts, and there is no identification on the sites as to whether you're buying from a tout or from another fan. And these sites are dressed up as fan-to-fan exchanges, etc., when one site admitted that 50% of their tickets came from touts, and another one's admitted that 30% did. So it's where these tickets are coming from. These sites cannot guarantee that the ticket you will get is valid, or even if it's not counterfeit. We've had instances where invalid tickets and counterfeit tickets have been sold through all of the big three sites. So again, there's a false premise that these sites are 100% safe.
Edward Parkinson, what percentage of your tickets are from touts?
The number that we would quote is that 95% of sellers on our website sold fewer than 10 tickets in the last 12 months. So the overwhelming majority of sellers are individuals selling tickets they can't use, and for that small percentage of sellers who are selling more than 10 tickets in a year, there's very good reasons for that. They're season ticket holders at a football club, they own a box or a suite in a venue, perhaps they're smaller ticket agents who have legitimately got large numbers of tickets and would list some on a ticket exchange like Viagogo because they don't have their own distribution. So that's my response to that.
And if you're suspicious of a 10-plus seller, what do you do about them?
It's our absolute prerogative to make sure that if someone buys a ticket, they get that ticket for the event. So if anyone is listing tickets that we suspect they can't provide, we will investigate that person and make sure that we believe that they legitimately have those tickets and can provide them, because we are looking after the buyers on our website, the fans who are buying tickets. Can I come back to one of Reggie's points around the refund? Our guarantee isn't sort of we guarantee you a ticket or your money back. It's not. Your money back is no compensation if you have missed the opportunity to go and see that cup final, your favourite artist at the O2. Our guarantee is that we will do everything we can in our power to find you a ticket, and that is very different from simply saying, oh well, you can call the credit card company to get a refund.
03700 100 444. Shari Val is in our phone-in room. She's been listening to some of your calls and comments, but also is my colleague who has been looking into this primary and secondary ticket market over a number of years. So Shari, what do you have for us?
I was very interested to hear the professional ticket seller there talking about the prices of things. You might ask yourselves why there are these dramatic increases in prices from the primary level over the last, well, say 20 or 30 years. And we've been looking at this, and we realised that, in fact, it was a lack of ambition by promoters in America, which is really the only territory where this kind of data has been recorded. If you think back to 1979, between 1979 and 1996, the average ticket price inflation was about 2%. And then, in 1994, the Eagles reunion tour, remember that, Julian? They decided...
I do, actually.
I think you should dye your hair. They decided that... Actually, they were going to be so popular that they were going to charge $100 a ticket. Now, most promoters thought they were completely mad. But then they sat up when the tour sold out within minutes and was widely oversubscribed. So suddenly, big acts like the Rolling Stones started to do the same. And between 1996 and 1999, ticket prices in the US went up by 50%. Now, it used to be that gigs supported the record, CD. But since downloading blew that market apart, now the recordings are used to promote the live gigs, and successful bands generally make more money from touring than from record sales, and we can see them reforming all over the place to do live gigs. So imagine Madonna. Let's take her as a benchmark. Her ticket price went from 20 quid in 1990 to £47.50 in 1993. And then in 2008, it was £150. The Rolling Stones, they were charging £20 in 1990, £25 for the Wembley gig in 1995, but £340 for the top price face value ticket in 2005. So clearly the artists have seen the potential of this as well. Now, it's the artist and the promoter who decide what price to set. And I can give you a very quick rundown on who gets what when you divide up the face value of a ticket. The band itself gets 33%, the management get 25%. There are tour expenses of actually going there and, lifting boxes and things, and that gets about 15%. Ticketing gets about 10%. The production itself, the fireworks, the lights, they get about 8%, and the legal and insurance side of everything gets about 10%. So that's how it's divvied up. But go back to the ticket prices that people charge. They're not always huge. Prince, for example, charged £31 each ticket for his string of 31 gigs at the O2 in the same year. Lady Gaga charged £30 on her debut tour at the O2. But then she realised that she was quite good, and she hiked the prices to between £50 and £75 for the second leg of her tour. But also, there are rising health and safety requirements and policing, and these have also contributed to the increase in ticket prices over the last 10 years. I'm sitting up here in the phone room, and we've had lots of telephone calls and lots of emails with very different but very strong views. For example, Willie Ryan writes, "Ticket touts are parasites," he says. "They create nothing, yet they profit from the enthusiasm and the creativity of others." Mark Barrett says, "It's absolutely outrageous at the cost of the tickets in the UK. Tickets for some events are almost immediately sold out, but then seem available at inflated prices from supposedly reputable venues." But the other side comes as well. John Ledbury says, obviously tickets are a commodity like any other. Why should they be treated differently from any other commodity? Should the price of shares not be allowed to increase or decrease? But also, here's a really simple idea of what this whole story is about. David Mockridge writes, and he says, and I'll read you the whole email, it's only short. "I have a simple image that gives a clear idea of the problem. Imagine you're in the supermarket about to pay for your groceries when someone jumps in front of you, grabs your trolley and demands an extra £100 for what you were going to buy anyway. You have no choice because it's the only trolley left, so you pay up." That's what it's all about, and we've got lots of emails coming in.
Yes, I saw that supermarket one. It's a clever analogy. Shari, thank you very much. It's 12:31 nearly. You're listening to Call You and Yours on BBC Radio 4 with me, Julian Warwick. Still to come then, more of your calls about the event ticket market, more from Reg Walker and Edward Parkinson. Get in touch via the Radio 4 website or on 03700 100 444. In 29 minutes' time, it'll be The World at 1, and here's Martha with news of it.
Hi, Julian. Well, of course, we're going to be talking about the death of Osama bin Laden. Pakistan's foreign minister insisted his country is going to keep working against terrorism. But we'll ask to what extent his government can really be relied upon to fight al-Qaeda. We'll also examine the implications of bin Laden's death for the future of al-Qaeda and other Islamist extremists with two of the world's experts on the groupings. And what does Baroness Varzi think of being accused of Goebbels-like campaign tactics over the AV referendum? That's all coming up in The World at 1 in half an hour.
Martha, thank you very much indeed. Let's hear from two performers for a moment as well on this debate. Elbow, the Mercury Prize winners in 2008, have enjoyed a string of sell-out tours ever since, of course. This year they'll be one of the star attractions at Glastonbury. Now, prior to setting off on their current tour earlier this year, the lead singer and Six Music DJ, Guy Garvey, told Radio 1 that he thought that a markup on face value tickets ought to be allowed, but within reason.
I think if you've had the foresight to buy a ticket and then unfortunately you can't go, I think markup of 50% is, I think, tolerable. Anything more than that's excessive. You shouldn't be paying so much money for a ticket that you feel stung when you're at the performance. But by the same token, if you're disappointed that you can't go to a gig that you plan to attend, why shouldn't you make a little profit?
Well, that was Guy Garvey. Here at this point of view as well, because last year the bassist from the band Muse, one of the largest live acts in the world, came on You and Yours to announce the band were hoping to sell tickets directly from their website, which they now do. Chris Wolstenholme said he and the other band members had been motivated to take this step after hearing how their fans had, in his words, been ripped off by touts or unofficial websites.
It's kind of heartbreaking, really, and it's horrible reading these letters of people that have looked forward to a concert for so long. And not being able to go, And obviously at the moment, money's very, very tight for everybody at the moment. So it is quite heartbreaking to read, and I just think that the bands need to do something to sort of inform the fans more. I mean, we do something on our website where we tell people who the authorised ticket dealers are, to try and encourage them not to go to these secondary dealers and not to go to touts, But I do think it's something that has to be put into place at some point, not just for us, but I think for every band. Unless, the government do come out and say, ticket touting is illegal, or, secondary ticket agents are illegal. And obviously it seems like they're not going to do that at the moment. Why they won't do that, I don't know.
Well, that's Muse's approach. We'll talk about some of the other possible changes to the system in this half hour. My two guests still with me, of course. Let me race through some calls. Pauline's in Greater Manchester. Hi, Pauline. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Your point of view here.
My point of view is if you stop ticket touting, I wouldn't be able to go. My husband and I are both retired. We're computer savvy, so we always go as soon as something really good comes along. We're culture vultures. We buy our tickets, but we always buy extra. And we sell them on eBay or whatever. If we didn't do that, sometimes we recover the price of our own visit as well. So it we don't have to pay for that. So it helps.
And
but
you would argue that
if we didn't do that,
yeah,
we probably wouldn't be able to go if we didn't recover some of the money.
And you would argue that the market is deciding here. If people are prepared to pay you what you're asking for them, then what's the problem?
Yes. Better off people. If I was to wait for the law to change, I'd be dead, because we're that old, so...
Right, well, let's not go down that road, but thank you for coming on the programme. Catherine Tree in Cornwall. Catherine, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yep.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the guy from Muse. I completely agree with everything that he's trying to do. My husband and I tried to get tickets to a very good concert. I can't tell you which one, and were unable to. That was within seconds of going on the website, and we're very computer savvy, and we've got tickets for this particular event several years on the run. We couldn't do it, so we naively went to Viagogo, and that's who I have the problems with.
Why?
Because there was two of us looking at the computer screen, so I'm convinced we got our facts right. We booked for a Saturday night because it's a long journey for us. That was the only night we could go. It said yes. When the email came back, they booked us in for a Monday at an exorbitant price, which we had been prepared to pay, of £236. But we couldn't go on a Monday because we both have high-powered jobs. When we tried to say we wanted our money back, they said we could have our money back, but we wouldn't know until 3 days before the event.
Wouldn't know the day you were going, or wouldn't know whether you get your money back?
Wouldn't know whether we would get our money back,
right,
because it depended on the ticket resale.
Okay.
So, in other words, they were selling the tickets on yet again.
Well, I'll come to Edward on that in a minute.
With that kind of money in mind, we weren't prepared to take the gamble, so we've actually been forced. We thought, do we lose the money, or do we go to the event and actually take time off work, which we have never done in 20 years.
But you are going to take time off work.
We are, which is why I'm giving a false name.
That was the conclusion I'd arrived at in my mind, and I'm glad you've clarified it. Thank you for the call. Sorry, I'm going to move it on, Catherine. Apologies for doing that, but we've got so many people we want to try and squeeze in, and obviously we want more from Reg and Edward at the moment as well. Simon Rockman in Finchley. Simon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.
My problem with a ticket was when it arrived, it had no under 16s, and we'd bought tickets for myself, my wife, and my two children for a comedy festival. If the ticket had arrived in plenty of time, we'd have had time to get somebody else to take the children's tickets.
Mm-hmm.
But because we had no notice, there was no mechanism for selling them on, and the box office didn't take returns, and because they don't allow touting, they wouldn't let us sell them on the door.
Well, interestingly, I mean, this goes back to what we were talking about on the programme yesterday, because we were highlighting the fact that now two of the biggest live event organisers in the country have agreed to a police idea to protect people from fraudulent ticket websites, and they will now send out tickets as soon as possible, rather than waiting for very close to the actual event date.
And that's great.
And that's something you would welcome, clearly.
Both the flexibility and the security, because you have an emotional attachment about the tickets. It's not just, you're not just buying something, you're looking forward to it. And the security of actually having a piece of paper actually makes you feel quite good, and it goes on the wall and you look forward to it.
It's pinned on the fridge and everything else. Simon, thank you. Josie Martin in the Isle of Wight. Josie.
Oh, yes. Hello, Jim. Yes, this touting business, you know, it seems to have got out of hand, doesn't it? Really, its market forces gone mad, it seems to me, where people are trying to get tickets for an event. In some cases, it's just a one-off event, which is quite problematic. and the touts obtain a number of these tickets and sell them at quite exorbitant prices, and it just seems unreasonable.
Opera tickets, I think, in your case, yeah?
Well, this was not the case with the Royal Opera House, because touting is not permitted.
No.
So it's an entirely different situation, but it's a different matter. It's easier to operate ethically when there's going to be a series of performances, because if you get a ticket for a particular performance and you're not able to use it, in most cases they will accept it. They will accept it being exchanged for a subsequent performance. So that's a different issue.
Thank you for making the point, Josie. I just wanted to ask you, Reg Walker, whether you accept that there is a need for some sort of fan-to-fan buy and sell facility.
I totally agree. I think it's absolutely necessary for a fan who may be buying a ticket for up to a year in advance to be able to recover their money via a ticket exchange or some sort of buyback system if they find themselves unable to use that ticket. I think that's entirely right and fair. Now, that is the reason for existence that all of the secondary market sites give, that we're there to provide that facility, when in fact the significant numbers of tickets that are appearing that are from touts on their sites absolutely belie that fact. It's not the case that their primary reason for existence is to carry out some sort of benevolent act for the public.
But you heard Edward Parkinson's figure of 95% are doing exactly that.
That's the usual mantra, but it still doesn't answer the question of... I'll give you another example. There's another of the big three that states 99% of people have sold 5 tickets or less, but they've already admitted that 30% of their tickets come from touts. So 1% of the people that sell tickets through their site provide 30% of the total number of tickets. Okay, it's semantics. We need to know from these sites what percentage of tickets are coming from touts.
Let me ask you how you would then improve the system. What sort of regulation should be in place? Should there be some sort of profit cut-off above which these sites cannot go? How would you change the rules?
I think we need a very clear amendment to the Fraud Act to make it illegal to sell or offer for sale any ticket that you do not possess, have title to, or lawful authority to produce. That would mean that a fan that has a ticket that they cannot use, even if they don't physically have the ticket, could recover their money, and that primary agents could print tickets as a normal course of their business. But it would absolutely make it a very clear criminal offence that police and trading standards could act on and prosecute on. As for a solution, I'd like to see a price cap. I'd like to see a price cap of around 15 to 20%. I think that's entirely reasonable. That would make allowances for fans that do need to dispose of tickets to recover their costs and the cost of any advertising associated with that. So I think that's entirely fair.
Right.
And it would enable the legitimate end of the secondary market, which tend to be the much smaller sites, to continue operating.
We will hear from one of those in a moment, but Edward Parkinson, I'd like to hear your reaction to those two elements of what Reg Walker said. First of all, the amendment to the Fraud Act that he outlined. Let's deal with that first, the idea that you have to have that ticket tangibly in your hands before you make any commitment to the consumer.
I think the main point here is that if someone's purchased a ticket, it should absolutely be their right to resell that ticket. And I think the vast majority of people would agree with that. Therefore, I think anything that restricts or inhibits someone's ability to do that is really not in the consumer interest. Now, of course, people buy tickets, they don't necessarily receive them for many months later, or perhaps they have a debenture at a certain stadium and they don't necessarily have the ticket in their hand. So I think as long as somebody has title to that ticket, they know they possess it, don't necessarily have it in their hand, they should be allowed to resell that ticket on because it's their possession. So anything that's in line with that I would absolutely agree with. With regard to a price cap, on average tickets are resold on Viagogo at a 15 to 20% above face value. So as I mentioned, that many events tickets sell at or below face value, but on average it's about a 15 to 20% markup. The issue with the price cap is, though, while it's well intentioned to protect people from, perhaps you might call it, paying extortionate prices. The issue with it is, to go back to the point made by the Elbow band member, if you've paid £50 and you've got a hot ticket and you're going to miss the show and you know that it's worth 70, you're likely to want to get £70 for it. If there were no legitimate resale market, I don't think that person's then going to decide, well, I just won't bother. They'll probably then go to the pub, back down outside the venue in the street. And then we've returned to an age where the resale market is completely unregulated. It's happening on the streets outside venues, and it's effectively a black market. And that's when the fraudsters can infiltrate and start peddling fake tickets, and all sorts of the problems we've had in the past will come back.
That, Reg Walker, is surely true. It's what our man selling tickets who didn't want to give his name said at 12:15. It'll go underground.
It's underground already with regard to football tickets, but there's legislation in place there where people can be prosecuted. Even if people move their websites overseas, if they're breaking the law within the UK or they're a beneficiary here, we have the Proceeds of Crime Act, where assets from or proceeds of those crimes can be seized by police and people can be prosecuted. There's another sanction as well. Police can work with internet service providers to black hole websites overseas, so this is simply not viewable within the UK. There are plenty of measures that can be put in place. We constantly hear, oh, it will go underground. It's underground already. The vast majority of the secondary sites are not paying tax, not charging VAT, are certainly making some very, very dubious offers. And I'll make a challenge to anyone. Show me a secondary ticket market website and I'll show you an offence.
Let me bring in Richard Marks. I will come back to you, Edward, on that. But Richard Marks is on the line, and I mentioned the fact, or I think it was Reg actually, talked about the smaller fan-to-fan exchange websites. Richard, you run one. Tell us what it is and how it works.
I run a website called Scarlet Mist, which is a face value ticket exchange site. It works really like eBay or Viagogo or Seatwave to some extent. You visit the site, you buy a ticket or you sell a ticket, except you sell it at face value or below. And it's a free service to use. We don't handle the money. We introduce people to one another, and after that it's for them to sort things out between themselves.
But how do you make any money to run the site?
Well, it's a very cheap site to run, to be honest, but we make money through advertising.
Right, and you've been running for how long?
Since 2004, since April 2004.
Right, which would suggest that in 7 years you've managed to come up with a business model that works up to a point. I don't know how much of the debate you've heard.
Yeah, I've been listening to most of it. I think it's very interesting.
Right, well, where do you stand on some of the issues that we've been talking about maybe regulations, maybe restrictions, maybe caps?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that, like your guy said at the beginning, the face value price of a ticket is meaningless. That tickets are worth what people will pay for them, and so you always have to look at why touts exist in the first place. And the reason that touts exist is because promoters and bands don't like to exploit their fans, and they like to sell their tickets at what is below the actual face value, so that they can retain their fans and maintain the goodwill of their fans. And so you have got a slightly artificial market, which does allow touts to operate within it. I think it's difficult to get rid of ticket touts completely, but I think what you do have to do is to make things as difficult for them as possible, and to look at every angle of approach in dealing with that.
I mean, you talk about the artists and promoters wanting to keep their fans on side, which I'm sure is true up to a point, but when we heard some of the figures that Shari outlined just before 12:30 of the willingness of some artists to suddenly put their prices up when they realise how popular they are, that doesn't suggest that that's always the case.
Well, I think there are some artists that just think they're so big that they're above it. But I think for an average band, they will not want to put the price up to the absolute maximum because I think they see that as being unfair to the fans.
Edward Parkinson, how do you react to the kind of business model that Richard Marks has just outlined?
Well, I think in some ways he has a similar business model, but to my previous point, I think that the important thing is to keep all of the secondary market in a secure online exchange like Viagogo. You need to allow the seller of the ticket to set the price of that ticket. Otherwise, some element of the market, those people who feel that they should get a little bit more than they paid for, will be selling elsewhere on the streets and, as we've been describing it, underground. I'd like to go back to Reg's point on football, because there's a very good reason why it's illegal to resell a football ticket unless you're reselling it with the permission of the club, and Viagogo works with many football clubs like Man United and Chelsea to provide that official service. It's that if you have away fans purchasing home side tickets, you get mixing of fans in the stadiums, which can lead to violence. there's a very good reason why the police should invest their time in shutting down sites which allow people to resell football tickets and create those kind of problems. I think it's very different for concerts, rugby, cricket matches. The same dangers of violence and hooliganism just simply don't exist. Theatre hooligans is not a problem that we're aware of. So I think it's, whilst we could restrict the resale for other events, I don't think it would be a good investment of police time to be monitoring this market. I mean, we're talking about a situation now where there's rumours of, let's say, 28,000 police cuts in the UK. Against that backdrop, is this really a priority for the police service?
Let me bring in some more calls. Stuart Houghton's on his mobile. Stuart, good afternoon. He's not on his mobile any longer. Let me try Tim Waller in Birmingham. Tim, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, your point here.
I think we might be going down the wrong track by talking about getting things to be kind of government controlled in a way. In that the key problem is that the secondary sites, the way that things operate at the moment doesn't benefit the artists or the production teams, because most of the money is going to someone else, and it doesn't benefit the fans either, because the prices are artificially inflated. So surely we could find some way of convincing or making it more viable for the artists and the venues to control the tickets themselves and just be honest with their fans, because as one of the previous callers was talking about, they want to keep the prices that they are charging low, but by doing that the prices are getting higher and someone else is getting the profit. And if they were honest about how much they thought they could charge, actually the prices would be lower. And why not control tickets in the way that you do currently for things like Glastonbury, where you have to say who you are, you have to submit a photo ID that's printed on your ticket.
Well, actually, on the subject of photo IDs, let me bring another caller in, Karen Spears in Sandwick. Karen, good afternoon.
Hello.
I think you were wanted to talking about photo IDs with tickets as well.
Yes, I thought it was very, very good. A few years ago I went to see Tom Waits in Edinburgh, and there was a system where you were restricted how many tickets you could buy, and you had to give your name, and then at the venue you had to show your photo ID to get in. And all the tickets are sold, and it was, I thought that was a good way of making sure that it was just the artists and the promoters of the show who got the money.
Reg Walker, is that a way forward?
I think Glastonbury, because it's a one-off event per year with photographic ID, you have ample time there to put that in place. I think if you're a venue, particularly one of the larger venues that's putting on 3, 4, 5 shows a week, the Glastonbury system is simply not practical. The logistics involved in that would be absolutely immense. Ticket prices would have to go through the roof to underpin those costs. I don't think that's an idea. I think there are other things, there are other methods out there, such as using your credit card as a ticket, paperless tickets, is certainly a way forward. The technology's there, it's been tried, it's been tested, both in the UK and the US, and I think that potentially is a solution.
John Fraser in St Austell. John, good afternoon.
Hi.
What did you want to say here?
Yeah, my point is this. I recently tried to buy some tickets for the O2 for a big gig. And it's one of these situations where you have to be there at 9 o'clock on a Friday morning. I had 2 windows open on my computer. One was Ticketmaster, I think, who was selling the tickets, and the second window was the Go-Go. And what I found incredibly frustrating, has put me right off actually going on to these, trying to buy tickets in this method, is that by 9 o'clock, I was trying to buy tickets and was unable to do so. Yet at 9 o'clock in the morning, the Go-Go are selling tickets for the same gig. Now, there has to be a scam somewhere. How are these guys, at the very same second that the normal customer is supposed to be able to buy a ticket, they're selling them on the second-hand market? So I'd like to ask the guy how they managed to do that.
I will. Edward Parkinson, how do you manage to do that? It goes back to where I was earlier on when I said, where do you get these replacement tickets from?
So we will put up a marketplace as soon as an event goes on sale. For many events, there's a good reasons why people may have acquired tickets before that time. As I mentioned earlier, there might have been a pre-sale. For example, many of the major festivals do a pre-sale, which is just after the previous year's festival, many months before the major on-sale. There could be people then who bought tickets and then want to resell them. People own boxes. suites have subscriptions to certain venues where they know long in advance that they've got tickets for all events, and they know which ones they can't attend, and so that there's also those tickets will come on sale. We typically find, however, that the number of tickets available for a given event will increase dramatically as the event approaches, and that there are far more tickets on the resale market sort of 2, 3, 4 weeks out than perhaps there are right at the moment that go on sale.
Do you use any form of computer software which enables you to buy a lot of tickets very quickly as soon as the venue is up and running?
I think it's very important to make it clear that Viagogo as a marketplace don't buy any tickets. We simply provide a marketplace that allows people who want to resell tickets to resell them on. So I think this issue of sophisticated computer software is also somewhat overblown. One of the directors of one of the major primary ticketing agents estimated that perhaps 5% of the tickets that they sell get resold. So I think that is somewhat overstated in terms of large quantities being bought up. But certainly Viagogo as a company don't buy tickets.
Okay, John, I asked him. What do you think?
Well, it doesn't sound like a very plausible answer to me. I'm not talking about tickets in boxes. I was talking about just regular tickets in the auditorium, which were on sale for all different parts of the stadium. The second thing is, perhaps an idea might be, if it plays like the O2, limited sales to two tickets per person. If you want to go as a group of 6, it's not beyond the will of man to work out that the 3 of you can try and buy tickets together. And I don't know why they don't think of that as an idea.
All right, John, I want to squeeze one more call in because we've only got a minute or so left. Gary's in London. Gary, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
A brief word, if you would, sir.
Yep. In November last year, I bought 4 tickets from Seatwave on the website to see the ATP Tour tennis finals at the O2. I didn't receive the tickets, despite when I bought them having a precise ticket location within the arena. I phoned Seatwave. They said to me they couldn't provide that. They said the ticket would be there the next day. It didn't arrive. We were in a rolling market. I was hoping to see a Federer-Nadal final. As the days went by, the price of the tickets was rocketing. I didn't get mine. I chased Seatwave. They said to me, you will get them. I didn't. They phoned me back, offered me replacements. I said, well, I want the ones I originally ordered, or my money back. They said, you've got to give us the opportunity to give you equivalent tickets. They offered me 6 instead of the 4 that I bought. I said no, in a different part of the arena. I said I want the ones I bought. They didn't arrive, and anyway, to cut a long story short, I spent £1,400, ended up going to the arena with tickets that they said were the original ones I bought because I went crazy with them. Arrived at the arena, and I was refused entry because the arena said that the tickets had been cancelled.
Ouch. Yes. Well, I don't quite know what to say to that, Gary, by way of consolation, but we appreciate you coming on the line and telling the story. Time has beaten us for any further comments from my guests, but I would like to say thank you very much to Reg Walker and to Edward Parkinson for being a part of the programme today. We hopefully shed some light on what is a complex issue without necessarily resolving it one way or another. A word about tomorrow at the start of our new series, looking at the options available if you want to go green at home, wind power, heat pumps, and we begin with solar, plus the acrimonious fallout from plans to develop the harbour in Penzance. That's with Charival tomorrow at 4 minutes past midday.
Call You and Yours was presented by Julian Warwicker. It was produced in Manchester by Kevin Mosley. Now, let's have a look at the lunchtime weather. Prospects